In this video, I'll be showing you how to build up this working, realistic airplane, as well as some other variations using stuff like honey and TNT, and we'll also be showing some other additions for the plane, like a way to launch it from the inside, and a little tunnel from the airport to the plane. Hello and welcome to the Airplane 2.0 tutorial. So we're going to start off by just looking at the airplane we're going to be building. So as we're going around here, this thing is 57 blocks wide, 47 blocks long, and 10 blocks tall. So that's what the whole airplane looks like from the outside. So then on the inside we have this back here with a little bit of open space, and then up towards the front we have this big section of seats to sit in, and then right up at the very front it's pretty clogged up with some slime. So that's our main airplane, but I'm also going to be showing how to build 3 other variations. So we have this one down here, which is pretty much just the same plane but with no seats on the inside. And then there's this one where instead of using all slime, we used as much honey as we possibly could, just in case that's a block you have more of. And then finally, we have a really fun one up here, which is the full TNT airplane. And the one other thing to look at is this machine flying. So I made this little airport in the world download to show some other different features, and we're going to fly this plane to show how it works. And so now that we're in the airplane, all we have to do is press this button right here, and the entire thing will start moving. So here's what it looks like to a person sitting in one of the seats. You can see everything moving around us, but as long as we're right here, we're safe. So you can move around this thing too, and you can see it kind of throws you around a bit, but as long as you have this block behind you pushing you along, you're going to stick with it. And to show what it looks like from the outside, here it is inching along, and there's going to be lots of weird stuff with rendering it in. You can see that's actually not real if I get close enough to it. But yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like as it flies through the air. And here's a shot from someone who's way down below looking up at it. And before you get to building this on your world, there's 3 important things I want to mention. So the first thing is that I'm playing on Java Edition, which is the version of Minecraft you play on the computer, which pretty much just means I can only confirm this works on Java, and I'm not totally sure if this works on Bedrock Edition. So if you do try to build this on Bedrock, be prepared for it not to work, and if it does or doesn't, let me know with a comment, and I'll make sure to put a card up in the video right now, and change the title, and pin the comment and all that, so everybody else can know whether this works in Bedrock or not. So the second thing is that this only flies in a straight line. There's no way for it even to go backwards, so once you build it up in this direction, that's the only way it could go. But you can still stop and start it as many times as you like. And the final thing is that if you're building this up on survival and even on creative, this thing could be really frustrating to build, because with flying machines, even if you get a single block wrong, the entire thing will crumple up and require you to completely restart. And so with all those warnings out of the way, we could get into building this. And if you're not ready to build it yet, you could skip ahead to this timestamp, because that's when I'm going to talk about some other stuff you could add on, some different fixes for it, and just other little things like that. So for our first build, we're going to be doing the regular plane right there, and that's the one with the seats in it. So here's the exact amount of materials you're going to need, and so this is 6 stacks of pretty much any block you want, and then all these need to be exactly how they are. The glass you could have be any color, the stairs could be any type of stairs, and the trapdoor could be any type of trapdoor. Although I do recommend the iron trapdoors since you can't switch them at all. And just to show you some different blocks you could use to build this up, I'll show you a few planes I made with various different blocks. And so for this build, I'm not going to be doing a block by block tutorial. You could let me know if that's a dumb idea, but I'm just going to be showing it layer by layer in this blueprint type way, so you just need to stack each of these on top of each other. And so some important things to point out about the blueprint is I'm using both a 1x1 grid and a 3x3 grid. That's just to help with counting out the spaces between stuff. I also have these red squares. Those aren't actually a part of the build. Those are just to show you how each thing aligns, and also to give a reference point when you're building each layer. And now with the pistons, any piston that's facing forward is a normal piston, and anyone that's facing backwards is a sticky piston. And with the observers, the way that the arrow points is where the red dot is, so the red dot is on this side of the observer, and the face is on this side. And the final thing is I'm just using pink glass for the build since it stands out a lot better against the dark background. So here's the first blueprint of the normal plane with all the seats inside. And then we have our next one, which is the empty plane, where it's just the normal plane with no seats inside. And now we can move on to our honey one, and so I thought I'd mention that the reason why there's still some slime left behind is because slime is actually a solid block unlike honey, and so we need that for the observers to power certain pistons, so just those certain sections need to be slime. And then on the TNT airplane we have a bit of a strange thing where there's two blue blocks, and what those need to be is pretty much just any block other than TNT, because if you place TNT there it will just explode once you fly it. And now that you have your airplane all built up, here's everything you want to do before you start to fly it. And so the first thing is to go make sure the entire plane looks symmetric, because this entire thing should be perfectly mirrored. So if you notice any weird blocks like this, make sure to get rid of them. And now go around and look at all of your pistons and make sure all the normal pistons all have an air gap in front of them, as you can see most of these do. And then for the sticky pistons, make sure every single one of them has a block directly in front of their face. And so those checks aren't foolproof, but it should help you find out any weirdness before you get it all crumpled up. And the next thing you want to do if you're building this on creative mode is to set up some blocks so you could clone a separate one and you don't have to worry about destroying your original copy. So here's all the blocks you need. You just need to place any block at the very bottom of the airplane, at the very edge of this wing, and at the very front of this nose, just like this one, so you make sure to encompass this whole bottom corner. And you want to do the same thing on the complete opposite side so that it encompasses the very top of the airplane, the very back of this wing here, and the very edge of this wing here. So that just allows us to select these 2 points and we're cloning in the entire area of this airplane. And if you're doing this on creative mode, you also want to place some immovable blocks, one right here on the edge of this wing, then 2 on the back of these 2 little wings, 2 on the back of these little nubs, 1 on the back of this top wing here, and 1 on the edge of this wing as well. And those all just keep it from breaking when you clone it into a new location. So now let's just clone this somewhere else and then we could get back to survival. So to clone it, all you need to do is take your little crosshair and look at one of these blocks, then type the slash right here on your keyboard and type in clone. You could hit tab to fill in the rest of it, then you could hit tab here to also fill in these coordinates. So these are the coordinates of the block you're looking at, and if you're only seeing 3 squiggly lines, that probably means you're not looking at the block. And then you just need to hit enter and it will save it into your chat. So then you could go over to your other block. Now you want to look at this one and select the coordinates of that block. And so now with this we have our whole airplane selected, and now we need to go pick where we want this new one to clone in. And so also with the clone command, it's going to summon it in the south, east, and upwards direction. And so the final step is to click your command here of the selected airplane and then enter in these 3 squiggly lines, which is the place that your player is at. And once you hit enter, it will fill it in right where we were. And so now let's look at the simple way to start and stop this airplane. So all you have to do to start it is just place a block right here, and you could place a button or something like that so the block doesn't get left behind. And then to stop it, all you need to do is place a block in any of these spots here. And so when you want to start it up again, it's a bit different this time. You want to start off by getting rid of the block you placed down so the whole thing can move again, and then you just want to place something on this observer this time since we now have a gap here, and you want to place something like a button or a torch so it just immediately breaks and doesn't get in the way. So here we go. And if you're doing this on survival, I'd recommend just towering out this way a little bit and then just make sure to get rid of all those blocks there, and then now you can access this observer where you get started. But actually, since we have that gap there, since we already started it, you can see this doesn't do anything. And so if it was like this, what you'd want to do is activate this observer here, and you would want to make sure to have some elytra on you, so you could then fly on top of the airplane and get inside, and now you're all inside your airplane, all good. And then what you would want to do to stop it is fly back out of your airplane, come around here, and to somehow place a block on top of this. So that's kind of the quicker, janky way to do it, but here's a lot better of a system. So there's lots of different ways to do this, but I'll show you 2 different ways I figured out to start the airplane from the inside. So the 2 buttons that we could press to start this are this one right here on the wall, and then this one down here. And so what the one on the bottom is doing is it's going down here and activating this redstone line, which activates this piston, pushing the blocks up, and activating the observer, which launches the airplane. And with the other button, it's activating this redstone line, And by the way, these 5 blocks here need to be glazed terracotta so it doesn't stick to the slime as it moves past. And these could actually also be immovable blocks as well, something like a furnace or obsidian or anything like that. And so that line just wraps around here, goes around this, and I made sure it doesn't get stuck to this at all, and then it brings it around to this piston where it pushes this block into the observer's face and gets the plane moving. And so now here's a way to stop it. So all you need to do is place a block, and it needs to be at least up this high so it doesn't get stuck to this slime. And this could just be any block, and what it's going to do, as long as it's in the middle here, is it will end up crashing into this fin, which will stop the airplane. And so the place we have it right now will allow the airplane to travel about 30 blocks before it gets stopped, but you can move it way out there and then it would be 100 blocks, or you could put it right here and then it would only be about 10 blocks. And so just make sure that it lines up with either of these 2 blocks. And another thing I want to show you how to do is how to connect this up to a little tunnel so you could have it go from an airport or something like that. So start off by replacing this block right here, and here's just so you can see where it's at. So replace that one with a trapdoor, and then another thing I did is I put a trapdoor on this space so that way the passengers don't walk over this and just fall right through this hole. And since this thing isn't secured to anything, it will just slide back until it gets stuck to these 2 slime, which is perfectly fine. And so also to have this doorway and the tunnel and stuff, you need to have some glazed terracotta or immovable blocks in some of these spaces. And that is pretty much everything I could think of to show at this airplane, but here's a few other random pieces of information. So first of all, if you build an airplane like this one where it's a TNT airplane with seats inside, you also need to make sure to place 2 non-TNT blocks here and here, and it's the same on the other side, so that way it doesn't get powered by this observer, because if you have TNT there, it's just going to power that right away. And then also, if you built a honey airplane, one cool thing you could do, and you can even just have a single section of this be honey, so this could be the slime airplane with just 5 blocks here being honey and it would still work. But what you could do is you could stand on top of this honey and you'll stick with it since the honey carries you along, and you could be some kind of cool guy flying up on top of the wing. And this world download will be down in the description. There's not too much here, but we have this one airplane that you could fly yourself, so you could launch it, and there's a button that you could press up here and right down there that will summon in a new one, so you can launch as many of these as you want. We also have this thing that goes through all the different layers, and these are the planes that I'm using to get the layers from. And then over here is just a set of planes that you could clone somewhere else and fly yourself. And I'm pretty sure that should be absolutely everything about this airplane. But if all else fails, here's how to build at least this dumb little thing, and if you use 2 sticky pistons, I'm pretty sure this should work on Bedrock Edition. But thank you very much for watching. If this was helpful at all, a like would be much appreciated, and if you want to see other future flying machines and redstone builds, make sure to subscribe. But thank you for watching, I hope everything went well with building, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh snap, this one flies backwards too.